So with year 10 of Smite coming to an end soon, I decided to make my own season of Smite with my own god picks. The gods I have selected aren't really ones I really want to see in the game. Most of the time when I want a god in Smite, it usually involves in either that pantheon hasn't gotten a new god in quite some time, or I just think they would be a neat addition to the game. I'm saying this since I know that two of my picks are definitely going to be more kind of controversial, at least I believe they will. I'll be giving my picks an ability, a passive, or an ultimate, or I think that would suit their playstyle, but I won't be giving them a full kit since I don't have much creativity or what would be considered mostly balanced for a MOBA. So things may be a little bit overpowered or maybe a little bit underpowered depending on how they are. But without further ado, let's get straight into my Smite season. Starting for this season of Smite is the Warrior, and my pick is going to be Lubu, the Flying General. Out of all the gods I picked, I would definitely say Lubu is a god I really want to see added into Smite, and not please consider when they add a new Chinese god. So my idea with Lubu is he'll definitely be a very aggressive warrior and will definitely charge in leading the fight. So I created an ultimate I called Battle Charge. Lubu will thrust his spear forward, damaging the first enemy god hit, and will pick them up with the spear. Lubu will then call on Red Mare to battle and ride on Red Mare while the enemy god is banished up to 4 seconds. During this, Lubu will be CC immune and will gain 30% movement speed to him and allies following him. Once either the duration ends or Lubu does a basic attack, he will slam the enemy god down with the spear into an AoE attack, stunning all enemy gods in the AoE. If Lubu was added into Smite, I could definitely see him having this ultimate, or at least an ultimate that allows him to fully charge in the team fight, either starting it or even potentially ending it. But overall, I think I really like this ultimate idea that I have, and I hope it will maybe be given to Lubu if he was added, or potentially a future god release. Next is the Guardian of the Year, that being Dagon, Father of the Deep, and he'll be added in the Great Old Ones pantheon. Now I know that Dagon wasn't originally part of H.P. Lovecraft. It would definitely make sense him being added into Babylonian gods like Gilgamesh, Tiamat, or Ishtar. However, I feel like it would be better if Dagon was added into the Great Old Ones pantheon due to that pantheon only having Cthulhu, and I feel like most people when they think of Dagon would definitely think of the giant creature from the Black Lagoon rather than just a mermaid man. But I also think if they were going to add a new god for the Great Old Ones pantheon, Dagon is probably a decent pick, being somewhat popular, and also I feel like he's the safest, I would say. And that's due to how kind of controversial H.P. Lovecraft can be, and I think Dagon would be just a really safe-ish pick for it. So my ability concept for Dagon is kind of simple, but I think will be good. His ability will be called Dark Depths. This is where Dagon will create an AoE circle that when an enemy god is hit, will take damage and will be dragged down to the ocean's bottom for 2 seconds, or just basically banishing them. Once the god resurfaces, they will be slowed for 25% for 2 seconds. I feel like this will be a good ability for Dagon and an ally to either apply pressure onto a single target, or if they're getting ganked, Dagon can use this to buy him and his ally a bit more time. But overall, I think it will be a nice ability since I think Dagon would probably be a decently high CC Guardian, and this ability I think just fits overall with him. I was definitely considering whenever making an ability for him that allows him to summon a minion, but I feel like that would have been a little bit too boring to start off with, but I could definitely see him also having that option as well. But speaking of the duo lane, let's head to the Hunter. So now to my somewhat controversial pick, I would say my Hunter for this season of Smite will be Robin Hood, Stealer of Thieves. Now, I know that a decent amount of the Smite community are kind of against adding gods that aren't really gods. Things like Mulan and Cthulhu that I thought were really cool to be added. Some people were kind of more annoyed since they aren't really gods and the game is Smite, Battleground of the Gods. But I do think these picks are fun and definitely keeps the game fresh in my opinion, since it's tiring to see a god of the same thing but just being a different pantheon. Now you may wonder what pantheon would Robin Hood be in, since there really isn't a pantheon that fits for him. Well, in this season I like to introduce the Folklore Pantheon. A pantheon based on multiple folklores around the world where some people, not many I would say, believe in that these either spirits, people, or whatnot did actually exist. I definitely feel like a folklore pantheon smite could be interesting, since you could have things such as like the Headless Horseman, Blackbeard, or even like Davy Jones. Characters I think would be very interesting in Smite, but most likely never will be added. But back to Robin Hood, my idea for him is that he's going to be a hunter and definitely have a lot of his kit involved with gold. So his passive is called Steal from the Rich. Robin Hood's basic attack damage will be increased based on the amount of gold the enemy has, and additionally, whenever Robin Hood gains a kill, any allies that gain the assist of that kill will be given extra gold assist. I feel like this passive definitely makes sense with Robin Hood, and is also a passive that can be useful at the start of the game and up to late game. In the early game, you can have your support gain that extra gold, and in the late game, whenever everyone has all their items up line and will definitely have a huge amount of gold left over, you can still increase your basic attack damage onto them. So the mage for this season, I'll be adding Sif, the goddess of harvest from the Norse pantheon. If Sif was added, I could definitely see her being a supportive mage, or be kind of like a combat medic, kind of like Hell. So the ability I came up for Sif is called Wheat Field. Sif will create a line of wheat, kind of like how Marty Cor's stock prick grass is like, but less wide and more longer, but won't give you invisibility. Instead, Sif and allies that are in the wheat field will be healed and gain 20% movement speed. However, enemy gods that are in the wheat field will take tick damage and will be slowed by 20%. I feel like that Sif is definitely high up there with adding a new Norse god, and I feel like whenever potentially placing down seeds and whatnot that could either increase protections, decrease on enemies, and I would also imagine if added she will have a lot more when it comes to harvesting, kind of maybe working like how Persephone is, but being more supportive rather than aggressive. Remember about the other controversial pick I was doing? Well, here it is. For this year's assassin, I'll be adding Bigfoot, Beast of the Woods, and he'll be added into the folklore pantheon. I feel like this pick is the most controversial of all the gods, mainly due to Bigfoot being more of a species rather than just a single being. However, Bigfoot has been all around the world in different names, in different cultures, and a lot of people do believe there's some kind of ape man that lurks in the woods. But I do understand why people might be against adding a cryptid into the game. But since this is my Smite season, I say let Bigfoot rampage and Smite. So for Bigfoot, I see him being a heavy basic attack assassin, but also being tanky, kind of like Fenrir. So Bigfoot's ability I made for him is going to be called Log Swing, and it has two different versions of it. One being in a cone-like radius whenever Bigfoot swings it, dealing damage and slowing down enemy gods in it. And will also have a straight line where Bigfoot slams down the log, damaging all enemy gods hit while reducing their attack speed and rooting them. The way how you swap between these versions of Log Swing is depending how far you are looking, kind of like how some Wukong 72 transformation ability works. I think this ability would be Bigfoot's main clear, but can also provide utility with a longer range, helping to deal with a hunter or any enemy god on team building attack speed with a nice root added but will also have a nice root with it. So for my final god pick of the season, you may expect a mage, but instead I'm either adding a warrior or a guardian, that being Julius Caesar, ruler of Rome. It's been a while since we had a new Roman god, but I think adding a historical figure of Rome would be nice to see and also bring back this pantheon. But like I said earlier, I'm not sure why I want Julius Caesar to either be a very protective warrior with his team, or maybe just add him into the Guardian roster. But I think I will add him as a protective warrior, since nothing really about him says magical. So for my idea I gave for Julius Caesar is an ultimate called for Rome. Julius Caesar will call on a catapult from Rome and will fire in a global radius, sending up to a maximum of 3 shots. Each time an enemy god is hit by one of these boulders, they'll have their power reduced by 10% per shot, up to a maximum of 30% of power reduction for 6 seconds. The last shot from the catapult will also root enemies for 2 seconds. During this time, Julius Caesar will be CC immune except for stuns, which can cancel him out of his ultimate. I think this ultimate would be very hard to properly balance, and I think it is the most OP ability I made for this season, but man, it would be cool to see boulders flying across the map towards you or enemy gods. I also added the stun counter since I feel like this is a decent way to counter Julius Caesar from using his ultimate. So that's gonna be my Smite season. And what did you think? Let me know down in the comments below if you like or even dislike my god picks, or even the abilities I came up for them. But also let me know your season for Smite, and I'd love to see what gods people want in the game, or even concepts they made. But that's gonna wrap up today's video, and I hope you've enjoyed, and if so, hit that like button. And if you're new at all to the channel, hitting the subscribe will definitely be appreciated. But anyways, see ya.